So one way to remediate your drift, we rebuild Rome. We fall back, we nuke it from orbit. We build a machine, we put it out there, and we let it go until it becomes a problem. And once it becomes a problem, we just destroy it and make a new one. Oh boy. I've seen this work better on desktop imaging systems. I worked at a startup once upon a time where this is how we handled all the desktops. But we were all software engineers. And so we let all the guys install anything they want on a PC. And if they had a problem, they knew once they called us, we always had the same solution. Once they went home that night, we went to their machine and we re-imaged it back to known. And they came back in the next morning, they had to set everything up for themselves. Now, this was actually a perfect solution for the two guys who had to support all the desktops because it meant nobody ever told us they had a problem. Because once they got their software set up, there was no way they were going to let a couple of cable dragging, knuckle dragging Neanderthals like me and Travis near the machines and undo all their work. So they fixed all the problems themselves. But it's no way to run servers. And this is really, really not limited to cloud. There's a neat system out there that I've made some use of, which is kind of a front end to cloud computing. It's called RightScale. And they take more of a rebuild it approach. They like to fall back and nuke it from orbit in that they have a whole set of scripts that once you spin up an image, all of your scripts run and configure it to be the right way. And so, in fact, one of the big buttons right under the status button on their GUI years ago was destroy and relaunch. And I thought that was so interesting that they were just right next to each other. Nothing like clicking the wrong one in the middle of the night. So yeah, I do not approve of this, hence the thumbs down. The weird thing is I only have 3 fingers. It's like I'm a shop teacher. All right, drift remediation, the manual method. Oh! Or I should say, this is the procedural method. We have the book of Holy Writ, which is all of our procedures that we follow when we need to do something. So we've got our instructions, and when something goes wrong, when the ticket comes out at the help desk, someone is tasked with going and following these instructions. And so maybe the instructions, maybe you get a semi-automated state where somebody actually runs a shell script to, or a batch file to fix your issues. But this still ends up becoming a little more of an issue because people get nervous. Anytime they have to touch something, they are naturally nervous. If you have to type 3 characters in a row, you guys are probably all more competent than I am, but I can think of a lot of ways to screw up typing those 3 characters in a row. I can probably do it 15 or 20 different ways, especially if I'm tired, and get really unique errors. And you actually have to do something. You have to see the alert go off, and somebody has to handle it. I worked with a guy years ago who was really awesome at claiming tickets when he was on rotation. He would claim the tickets, which would then require action to fix, but he would then sit on them until it was my turn on the on-call rotation and assign them all to me. And so we would have longer outages than we need to do. Or it could be just a simple thing of you see the ticket come in, you claim it, and then you go to lunch. You know, you think you'll solve it in a minute and something comes up, you forget it. You got a longer outage than you should have. We had sorry about that, my insulin pump gets needy sometimes. Machines can be missed. There was a big government kind of umbrella organization I worked at years ago, and we had, I think we had 900 Windows machines and 1,400 Unix servers. And of the 1,400, and I'm going to stick with those numbers because I think those are right, of the 1,400 Unix servers, maybe 200 of them had centralized authentication. And half of the Windows boxes were on Active Directory, and everything else was standalone. Which we had a great procedure for when somebody needed an account on a machine. They would fill out a form, and they would list all the machines they needed access to. And then someone would go through and manually add them to all those machines. And then, as would occasionally happen, we would have someone escorted off-site for having done something they shouldn't have done. They said something untoward towards another person. It turned out they had a different job at the same time, or for whatever reason, they were being terminated that day. And the ticket would come to the help desk and it would say, eliminate this user's account on all machines. 2,300 machines to check. 2,300 machines, and that's when it comes up with that original form. It would say machine name, and next to it would be requested username. Ooh. So you could have an account on 30 machines that would have 30 different usernames. And there's no rhyme or reason. So how did we lock accounts when people left? We took away their VPN dongle. And then you would hope that nothing bad would go on from there. So machines can and would be missed just as a bad procedural thing. And often, this was a big one, too hard. I watched a bunch of clustered machines get skipped on the upgrade procedure for a couple of years because no one was really sure what would happen if we tried to patch them. So what happened was nobody tried to patch them. And I tried to patch them. Remember that thing I said where the systems drifted so far they wouldn't start again? Yeah, it was funny how many people could say I told you so after that. But, all right, so my approach. I got a thumbs up here, and I'm almost entirely on the screen. I never wear red shoes in my own defense. So drift remediation, automated drift remediation. This is the big thing where you want to make sure that when something goes out of compliance, you fix it right away. In fact, ideally, you fix it without anyone ever having to say, ooh, we should fix that. What you really do, I like to call this DCM. And I shouldn't call it that because I'm sure that that is an acronym that means 10 other things. It only has 3 letters. I was at a training class once where a guy said, first thing we're going to need is an ACO. Does anybody know what an ACO is? I said, no, what's that? I said, you know what an ACO is? Close. In this case, it was an acronym control officer. We had an acronym control officer because, as he said, the TLA space is very crowded. And I said, I'm sorry, 3-letter agency? And he said, no, 3-letter acronym. TLA for an agency, you're doing too much government work, kid. But I call this desired configuration management, DCM. The Puppet guys like to call this infrastructure as code, which I think is a really neat phrase, but I haven't figured out how to define my phone system as a line of code, so I don't use it that much. And there's a few big competitors in this space, and these are really the big guys. CF Engine was first and was so far ahead of their time that even though they're really awesome, almost nobody buys them, and I don't know why. They apparently don't have anybody really good at selling things. There's the Chef guys, and I don't use them a lot because I end up rebuilding a lot of the same things. And then there's the Puppet guys who are really kind of neat, and they make hard stuff easy and easy stuff automatic. I don't work for them, and I don't get a kickback if you use them, so I don't care. Use Puppet, use Chef. Heck, try CF Engine. If you can get your head around the configs, it's fantastic. It usually will complete a run on a machine in like 2 orders of magnitude less than Puppet. So I've been watching machines with Puppet, and they'll complete a configuration run in 30 seconds. And then you set up a CF Engine client and everything and tell it to do the same thing. It's like 2.8 seconds. Ooh, that's neat. So the big thing with this, as soon as it goes out of compliance, just nudge it back into shape. Somebody creates an account which shouldn't be on a machine, we'll just delete it right now. Hey, I like that.